All right, guys, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you guys for attending the webinar today, which is going to cover the new employee handbook that was distributed a few weeks ago. I'm going to highlight a few of the policy changes that you guys will deal with the most with the new handbook, but these are certainly not all the changes in the new handbook. If you have questions at any time today during the webinar, you can send those to us and we'll be happy to answer those. There is a questions tab on your menu bar there that you have on your screen, and if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer those in real time for you today. If you have something that you want to talk about privately afterwards, you can certainly call me or send me an email. It is important that all supervisors and foremen watch this training, and a recorded version of this webinar will be available on the Personnel Department's website later today for them to see. So it's just important that everyone sees that. Some of the topics that we're going to cover today are callback procedures, temporary transitional return to work policy, probationary period for promotions or transfers, annual leave, the new employee assistance program, visiting the employee clinic, personal leave of absence, primary offenses, and the compensation policy. So we have quite a bit of to talk about this morning, and I'm just going to hit the highlights of the changes. There's probably more detail inside the handbook. If you have your handbook there with you, I'll have the page numbers of the policies that we're going to be talking about. But again, if you need more information later, you can certainly let us know. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about would be the callback procedures. That's on page 3 in your new handbook. As a reminder, callback, that occurs when an employee has left work and is called back to deal with a situation. They're called back to work. Now, previously we were handling this with employees being paid premium pay or time and a half for all hours worked when they're called back to work with a 2-hour minimum. Okay, so employees were paid premium pay when they were called back to work. However, going forward, employees will be paid their current hourly rate for all hours worked and will also receive 3 hours of deferred leave that they can use to take off later. Okay, so that is a significant change. This will be effective Monday, March the 6th. Now, I know we passed out the handbooks a few weeks ago, guys, but we did not want to make this change before we had this training, before we had the opportunity to explain it to you. It was going to be too much to try to explain it in an email. So this will be effective Monday, March the 6th. That employees, when they are called back to work, they will be paid their current hourly rate for every hour worked and receive 3 hours of deferred leave for each occurrence that they're called back. I do want to remind everyone that overtime is paid when an employee works in excess of 40 hours in a work week. An employee who works a callback does not automatically earn overtime just for working a callback. Now, we did have some instances where callbacks were leading to overtime. That can happen. If you have an employee that is called back into work on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, we encourage you to try to get those employees out earlier during the rest of the work week to try to prevent overtime. But we know that doesn't always happen and it's not always possible. But an employee is not paid overtime just because they work a callback. So I want to explain that. Now, how will this change on callback affect Kronos? Employees can still clock in and out during a callback using the callback button that's on the time clocks, or the timekeepers for the department can manually enter the number of hours on the employee's time card using the callback pay code. That part has not changed. How an employee establishes their time in and time out for working callback has not changed. However, going forward, the callback pay code that our timekeepers are familiar with seeing will calculate the employee's time using their current hourly pay rate and not the premium pay. So that will be one change that you will see. And also, the timekeepers for each department in Kronos will manually enter 3 hours of deferred leave on the employee's time card by using the deferred leave earned pay code. Okay, so let's look at an example of a time card in Kronos to see how this will how this will work. You're used to seeing the callback pay code here. That's either established by the employee pressing the callback pay code button on the time clock or the timekeeper manually entering it on the pay code column. But what's different is the timekeeper will have to manually enter or select deferred leave earned as the pay code and enter 3 in the amount column to give the employee their 3 hours of deferred leave. Okay? And I want everyone to understand that this 3 hours of deferred leave here, that's for each occurrence. Occasionally we will have departments, unfortunately it probably happens in the water department more than any other, where an employee is called back out multiple times in one night. So they would get 3 hours of deferred leave for each occurrence. Okay? So if you have questions with that, if the timekeepers do, you can certainly let us know. But how the employee establishes their time has not changed. It's just that the timekeeper will have to enter that deferred leave earned, select that pay code, and give the employee their deferred leave hours. All right. Next, we're going to talk about temporary transitional return to work policy. This policy is located on page 17 in your handbook. This is a new policy that we have written to take the place of light duty in the county. The county has never had a policy or any procedures in place to administer or govern the use of light duty, which, as you can imagine, has led to significant inconsistencies and compliance issues. And as I'm sure most of you are aware by now, we are trying very, very hard to create consistency in the county and in everything that we do in all of our operations. The problem with not having any tracking procedures on employees that were on light duty is that it has led to multiple employees being placed on light duty and no one ever following up with them, no one ever coming back and checking with them to see when they're going to be able to come off of light duty, if they're going to be able to return to full duty. And in some circumstances, that has led to permanent accommodations, because that's what happens if no one follows up and no one addresses the situation with the employee. And it's, like I said, a lot of inconsistency. So the county will no longer offer light duty. As a matter of fact, those two words need to go away. We will now offer temporary transitional positions at each department's discretion. And let me hit that word a minute. Discretion. This is completely up to each department as to whether or not they will offer these positions. We have some departments now that absolutely will not offer light duty because they don't have light duty positions, and that's fine. These temporary transition positions operate the same way. If a department does not want to offer them, they do not want to participate, that's fine, but it is at the discretion of the department, not personnel. Okay. A little more about this policy. It is a bridge between the employee's short-term physical restrictions and their normal position duties. Now, notice I said temporary bridge. These positions are not permanent or long-term accommodations. These are short-term positions for employees until they can return to full duty. And as I've already said, departments are not required to offer these positions, but if they do, the position should be productive and beneficial to the department. The county is under no obligation to create work or positions for employees that do not serve a meaningful purpose for the department. And what I mean by that, guys, is that if a department chooses to offer these positions, they can, that's fine, but the positions that they offer an employee that's coming back from an injury, an illness, or surgery, that position needs to be beneficial. It doesn't need to be a desk job where all they do is sit and watch the dust collect all day. It needs to be something that is beneficial and productive to the department. I also encourage each department to be consistent in administering this policy. If a department is going to offer these positions, that's fine. Just be sure you're being fair and consistent during the process, and we will work with you with that. There is a request form that the employee has to complete. They have to provide us with the paperwork from their physician that lists their current physical restrictions. And so we just need to be consistent, guys. And if a department's going to offer these, then to one employee, then you're probably going to have to offer to all employees in your department. So we just have to be consistent with that. Now, the maximum length of a temporary transition position is 30 days. That should provide time for an employee to be able to return to full duty after an injury or an illness. And remember, I said these are temporary positions. So the maximum length is 30 days on one of these positions if a department chooses to offer one. Now, what happens if an employee is not able to return to full duty after completing a 30-day transitional position? Well, we're not going to leave that employee in limbo. We're not just going to leave it sitting out there and not deal with it. That's what's got us into some circumstances we are in now. If an employee is unable to return to full duty, then we will follow the guidelines of the Americans with Disability Act and enter into an interactive process with that employee to find out and see if we can identify or if they can identify a position that they can do that meets their physical requirements. And so I don't want to get too deep into that because that's completely another training, but I just want everyone to understand that we're not going to leave employees in limbo and not understand and know what they can and can't do and when they can return to full duty. And I will say this again, that each department will make up its own mind and its own decision whether or not it will offer these positions to employees. But we will no longer be talking about light duty. We'll be talking about these kinds of positions. But again, it's the employee's job to complete the request form and get that to you, and that will initiate the process. The supervisor is not responsible for initiating the process, okay? Now let's talk for a few minutes about probationary periods, which can be found on page 19 in your handbook. We have extended the probationary periods for employees who are promoted or transferred into another position from 3 months to 6 months. This change impacts all transfers or promotions that were effective on or after January the 1st, 2017. This will give departments more time to evaluate the employee's performance and attendance. And you notice on your screen there that the word attendance is in bold and highlighted. That's because we want you guys to have ample time to measure the performance of an employee, but also their attendance. And it doesn't matter if it's a new hire, a promotion, or a transfer. If that employee's attendance is poor during that probationary period, guys, please understand it's not going to get any better after they complete that probationary period. So we need to deal with that during that time. So again, this is effective for all promotions or transfers that occurred on or after January the 1st, 2017. Okay. All right, next we're going to talk about annual leave. Just a few words about this. It's on page 23. Going forward, annual leave may not be used to cover temporary absences due to personal illness, injuries, or to attend doctor's appointments. Those types of absences are covered by the county sick leave policy, guys, not annual leave. Annual leave is to be used when we take vacation or we need to take a day off or some time off to deal with personal business matters. That's annual leave. Sick leave is when we do have to go to the doctor, or we have to take our child to the doctor or something like that. That is sick leave. Okay. However, I do want to remind everyone that if an employee is out on family medical leave, protected family medical leave, they may still use their annual leave or their sick leave for the time that they're out. And the reason for that is, as you guys know, because we've had trainings on family medical leave multiple times, is that the county requires an employee to use all of their accrued leave while they're on protected family medical leave. So they can use annual leave, they can use sick leave. However, if it's these short-term due to sickness or injury or something, when we're out for that, that should be covered with sick leave and not annual leave. Okay. All right, just a few words about our new employee assistance program. I hope everyone is aware of this, and we've already had a number of employees take part in the program, and this policy provides the guidelines of how the program will operate. Employees who voluntarily participate in the AEP should schedule their appointments outside of their normal shift hours, if possible. But if not, they must use sick leave to cover any absences away from work. We have had some employees that have voluntarily gone through the program, and if that's the case, they need to, if all possible, schedule those sessions outside of the work hours. But if not, if it's voluntary, they're going to have to use sick leave to cover that absence. However, if employees are required to participate in the AEP, they will receive their regular hourly rate if the appointment is scheduled during their normal shift hours. There is a difference in an employee voluntarily going through the program and an employee being required to participate in the program, and we've already had that happen as well, and that's fine. But if an employee is required to go through that program, if their appointments are during the normal shift hours, we will not charge them sick leave. We will pay them their regular pay for that. And just a little word about the EAP program. We're going to have a supervisor training coming up later this month on the EAP program and how that can benefit supervisors. We've had supervisors call the office and want one of their employees to go through the program, one of the supervisors, because they've had anger management issues due to something that's going on in their personal life. And so a supervisor can require that an employee, as part of a disciplinary action, go through the EAP program. So we'll have a training coming up in a few weeks on that, and I'll be sending out that invitation to you shortly. All right, our next slide is talking about the employee clinic. When the employee clinic opened a few years ago, there was an unwritten practice that would allow an employee to receive up to 2 hours of regular pay time for visiting the clinic during working hours. Now you can imagine this unwritten practice was abused and has been stretched beyond its original intent. So we had to create a short policy to govern this benefit. And the benefit says this, that if employees can receive up to 2 hours of regular pay time if they visit the clinic during their normal working schedule. But in order to receive the substituted pay time, the employee must bring back a doctor's excuse from the clinic during that same pay period. And guys, I don't think that's too much to ask, that if an employee leaves work to go to the clinic, and we're going to pay them regular time, 2 hours or up to 2 hours of regular time for that, I don't think it's too much to ask that they bring their timekeeper back a doctor's excuse from the clinic in order to receive that during the same pay period. I don't think that's too much to ask. But please be aware that this policy does not apply to employees who take time away from work to go with their dependent to the clinic. So if they have to take their spouse or they have to take their child to the clinic, that does not cover that. Also, employees who call in for the entire day, they will not receive the 2 hours. We are not going to pay an employee 2 hours of regular time and 6 hours of sick time because they called in sick and went to the clinic. That was not the original intent of this benefit, and it is very much a benefit to our employees. So it does not apply to employees who miss an entire day of work. And by the way, the clinic is very, very busy right now with sick employees, both in the county and in Huntsville Utilities. So we encourage everyone to call ahead of time before you go to see if you can make an appointment. All right, we're going to talk about personal leave of absence policy now. This is a new policy, but we had a similar policy in the 2015 edition of the handbook. But that policy was very gray and did not have a good governing structure. So this particular policy allows eligible employees to request an extended unpaid leave of absence for extreme and rare situations only. This policy does not provide leave that would be covered under the family medical leave policy. Family medical leave is totally separate from a personal leave of absence, okay? This personal leave of absence cannot be taken on an intermittent basis. It must be requested and used in consecutive days up to a maximum of 30 days in a calendar year. And again, these will be approved, considered and approved, and only in very extreme and rare situations. There are a number of qualifications that an employee must meet in order and satisfy in order to be eligible for a personal leave of absence, and those are on your screen now. I'm not going to read them to you. They're in the handbook. But again, this is a benefit or a privileged benefit that will only be approved in very rare situations, because we all need our employees at work, but there could be a situation that an employee has that they would need to take an extended unpaid leave of absence. So this policy is in there to cover that. Employee has to request it in writing to their direct supervisor, who has to approve it, but then also the county administrator has to approve that as well. Okay. All right, next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about employees' work attendance. Now, as most of you are aware, because you've talked to me about it, we have an attendance problem in Madison County in a lot of departments. Not every department, but in a lot of departments. And unfortunately, guys, we have employees who are taking advantage of the generous benefits and amounts of leave time that the county gives to all of us. I don't want to give you some stats here because I'm a numbers guy. As of at the end of 2016, we had 2,800 hours of unpaid leave that was logged into Kronos. 2,800 hours of unpaid leave. And I know that's not all the unpaid leave that we have, because we didn't have every department on Kronos in all of 2016, and we weren't capturing all of it early on last year. So, but 2,800 hours is just extremely excessive when you're talking about unpaid leave. Guys, this is time that is taken by employees who have abused their accrued leave, both sick and annual, and have decided they are going to continue taking time off, even though it means doing so without pay. So let's put this into perspective. Madison County gives full-time employees the minimum of 8 hours of sick leave and 8 hours of annual leave per month. That's 2 days off per month. Or if you want to look at it another way, that's 24 days per year that the county gives each one of us at a minimum days off per year. And we've got employees that blow through that and have decided that they're going to work when they want to work, and they don't mind taking unpaid leave. However, that is not going to be allowed to continue. Madison County is going to spend somewhere around $14 million in health care in 2017 for all of us to have health insurance. And yes, I said almost $14 million. And we are not going to extend that benefit or any other benefit to employees who've decided that they don't want to come to work, but yet they still want the benefits. So going forward, employees who use in excess of 40 hours of unpaid leave in a calendar year will be subject to termination. Now, let me also say this. We have some departments that are on the phone right now that are on this webinar that may want to generate a policy that is a little more stricter than this. And I'm perfectly fine with that, because we have some 24/7 facilities that desperately have to have people at work because of the nature of the business that they do. So if a department wants to come up with another version of this policy on their own, that's fine. I just ask that you please send me a copy of that so we can have it here in personnel to see. But this does not include employees who are on approved family medical leave. And I keep going back to family medical leave because of how important that law is. Because we will have employees that have to go on family medical leave and they don't have enough accrued time to cover the time off on their protected family medical leave, so they end up going on unpaid family medical leave. And that's fine. Those hours on unpaid family medical leave do not in any way count toward this 40. I want to make that very clear. From a legal standpoint, I want to make that clear that those hours will not be calculated in with this. The Personnel Department is monitoring the use of unpaid leave, and we will send notification reminders to employees and their department heads as necessary, and we've already done that. Believe it or not, guys, we've got an employee or two that's already pushing this 40 on unpaid leave, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't know why they're still working here. I really don't. They wouldn't work for me. Let me put it to you that way. And like I said, we are not going to continue to extend the kind of benefits and pay the kind of money that we do for our employees who do not want to show up for work. It's not fair to all of you that are on this call who work so hard every day. It's not fair for you guys to have the same benefit opportunities as someone who wants to work 30 hours a week and not 40 hours a week because they just want to call in. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But if you have questions about that, if you have employees who don't like it, or if they have questions about it, I'll be happy to meet with you guys on it. All right, I want to end this on a good note. So our final slide will highlight a very positive change. We have worked with the county commissioners and the personnel board to eliminate some of the red tape and the redundancies that's been slowing down the process of employees being able to get their pay increases in a timely manner. Now, the previous process for an employee to have an approved pay increase or a promotion was that the personnel board had to approve it at their monthly meeting. As most of you know, the personnel board meets once a month, and typically that's somewhere around the middle of the month. So we had to present that to the board at their middle of the month meeting, and then we also had to present that at the county commission meeting for their approval. That led to a large amount of time in between an employee actually being promoted and the time that they actually got their pay increase. So going forward, the personnel board will approve pay increases and promotions twice per month. Once at the beginning of the month by email, and then again at their monthly meeting. So what will happen in order to speed this process up, the personnel board has agreed to approve pay increases and promotions via email at the first of the month. So any pay increases and promotions that personnel receives after the personnel board's middle of the month meeting up until the end of the month, we will send that to the personnel board via email at the somewhere around the first of the month, and they will vote to approve or not approve that pay increase or their promotion. Then we will take any promotions and pay increases we receive after the first of the month until the middle of the month and present that to the board at their monthly meeting. Guys, this dramatically speeds up the process of getting your guys their pay increases and their promotions. But also, I'm thankful to our commissioners who have worked with us on this, because these pay increases and promotions will no longer have to be presented at the county commission meetings for their approval. We've already started this process, and it works very, very well. And you know, the county commissioners vote on a budget. They view each department's budget. Any position changes, all of our positions are included in the budget. So those are already voted on and approved. So I am very, very thankful to each of our county commissioners for their help on this, and also the personnel board, because it just cuts out a lot of the redundancy and a lot of the red tape and time that it was taking to get your guys into their positions and get their pay increases. Okay, so I am thankful for that. All right, guys, that's all that I have to present today. There are a lot of other changes in the handbook, not as significant. I just wanted to hit the primary policy changes that you guys are going to deal with most today. But if you have questions, we're going to stay on for a few minutes longer to help. Guys, this is not a perfect handbook. I never claimed that any of our handbooks are perfect, but we did a handbook in 2015, and I told you then that we're not going to wait 6 or 7 years to do a handbook again. We had to make a lot of changes in 2015. Everyone's aware of that. But I don't know that I want to do one every 2 years, but I don't want to wait 6 years either. So we will make changes and continue to move forward as necessary. And again, a recorded version of this webinar will be available later today on our website. And again, I thank you guys for attending. And if we can ever help you in any way, please let us know. Thank you.